All right, today we're going to be installing some crash bars on the bike. I bought some new crash bars, so I thought I would start by talking about why I bought the crash bars, why I picked the crash bars that I decided to buy, and then we'll just walk through the install. It's a pretty straightforward looking install. Didn't dry run it or anything, but I looked at all the instructions. That looks pretty straightforward. So that's the plan for today. Install some crash bars. All right, here we are. I thought that rather than try to explain it to you in all those crazy words, I'd just show you. The other day I was filming a video on how to pick your bike up if you drop your bike. And I noticed when I laid my bike on its side that this highway peg impacts this plastic. If you actually check that video out, you'll notice when I tipped it over, that highway peg is not on there. And that's because when I laid the bike on its side, I saw this and it worries me. I didn't want to like flex it. I had to pick the bike up and put it down a lot of times that day to shoot that video. So I'm worried that if I were to drop this bike in a parking lot with momentum, this thing is going to flex enough to break this and possibly damage the engine. So I just feel like these guys have to come off of there and crash bars need to be put on. I'm just not liking how this feels to me. Different strokes, different folks. Doesn't mean you have to. It's just what I feel like doing. So today I'm going to be putting the crash bars on and making this a little less scary for me personally. All right, we'll get started on that in a second. All right, these are the highway bars I chose. They're made by T-Rex. I chose them. I didn't realize that. There was a person in the other video on Tip It Over the Bike that said, hey, you know, T-Rex makes bars for this bike. I've really resisted the Panicle bars. I bought some a while ago and sent them back. I just didn't like the quality of them. They felt cheap. They felt flimsy, like not steel, like thick steel. They felt like thin tubes. More like a place to mount highway pegs than what I would call a crash bar. That was my opinion of the Panicle. So I did send it back when I bought it. Got my money back. And I've used T-Rex on my sport bike. So on my Aprilia, I've used T-Rex guards, and I'm here to tell you they work. Those are not the expensive guards. Those aren't a full cage like this. I wish T-Rex made a full cage for the Tuono 660, because nobody else does. You hear me, T-Rex? Anyway, T-Rex didn't sponsor me, to be clear. This is all me. I just bought these, had them shipped to me. They ship very well packed. These are burly-ass bars. These are meaty. They are only 1 inch, but they are meaty. You'll also notice they come with a replaceable skid plate on them. So if you drop your bike and you skid up this skid plate, just like sport bike parts, you can replace just this piece. So this mounts on the bike, protects the engine. It gives you a place to mount a highway peg here or here. I've ordered a highway peg to replace the Gold Strike pegs. I may keep those footboards, but I've ordered a set of pegs for this. So that's it. I chose the T-Rex because, number one, I know they're freaking high quality. They're made in America, just down in Texas. They think about things like, hey, if you drop this, is it going to break or is it replaceable? It mounts only to hard mount points, so it doesn't mount to flimsy mount points. It's mounting to the frame and to the same bolts that mount your stock tip-over bars. So that's amazing to me. The other thing to note is these are half the price of the Panicle bars. Half. So that's a pretty damn good deal. A better bar, made in America, replaceable components, and freaking half the price. So that's why I chose T-Rex. I know there's some other ones out there, but these are the ones I chose, so that's what we're putting on today. Again, not sponsored. T-Rex didn't pay me. So this is just me, guy in the garage. All right, let's get to installing these bad boys. In the interest of laziness, I have laid the bike on its side so I can work on this with it up. We're on the right side of the bike right now, obviously. This is the guard we're going to install. And where it goes is right here. So it's going to mount to the 2 bolts that hold this guard on. And it's going to mount to this bolt right here, which is actually an engine hanger bolt. So we're going to be careful with this one because that's a pretty big bolt and a very important bolt. If this bolt falls out, your engine drops on this side. So we'll be careful with that one. Okay, to start with, we've got 2 bolts we need to remove. We're going to remove these 2 so we can get to this one back here. We're just going to tilt this out of the way. when we get to it. So these are both 5mm. All right. Make sure this guy will tilt up out of our way. It does. That's so we can get to this bolt right back here. Now we need to remove these two bolts. These two bolts hold in the current engine guard, and we're going to get replacements for those. So the challenge here is we need this bolt out, which is actually connected to a nut on the back side of the hanger here, so way back here. So what I'm going to do is I have these cool little wrenches that actually trap bolts really well. So I'm going to put it back here and see if I can trap it, which I can. And I'm going to break this. So what this cool little wrench does is hold on to your nut so you can pull it out and get it out of the way. Okay, I'm probably being overly paranoid, but I don't want to pop this bolt out until I have another bolt to put in there, because if this shifts, I want a bolt here to at least catch it to keep it from slipping down out of place. So I've got my cage ready. Just going to set it to the side here. The bolt we are putting in is the shorter of the two long bolts. Hard to say that, and it has a spacer. The spacer goes in this little hole to make up for the head gap. So we're going to pull that head gap out. We're going to put the T-Rex cage in, and then we're going to drop the bolt through. So I'm just going to grab that bolt out of there. Get everything in place down below. All right, now I have a hanger in there, so it'll support it. I'm going to check and make sure the bolt's coming out long enough on the backside. It is. All right, so I'm going to, before I tighten this one up, I'm going to put the two bottom ones in and get them in place. Okay, so just like up there, we've got a bolt with a washer on it, and we've got a spacer. The spacer goes behind the cage. So we got to slide that in the gap right there and then put the bolt through. And then try to screw it in there. And remember, at this point, we're not trying to secure anything because we got to pull these back out to thread lock them. But we want to make sure everything is, relatively speaking, lined up. Same thing over here. We've got a bolt. This goes behind. Now we need to get down here and put this back in. So we're going to start by pulling off the bolt, pulling it out. Nothing gets shifted because it slides right out. We're going to put some thread lock on here. All right, now we want to slide this back through the hole. And start it on the bolt. All right. Now the new bolt is actually a 10mm hex. So we're going to put our 10mm hex on there, get it ready to tighten up right here. Now we're going to tighten that up. Now the manual gives you a different torque spec than T-Rex does. And I'm going to go to the torque spec the manual says, which is 58 foot-pounds. There we go, that one's on. Now we just gotta tighten the two front ones up. Okay, now we gotta get these guys out of here. We're gonna throw some thread lock on there and put it back. Now I did this because, I did it this way because I wanna make sure everything's lined up before I start locking everything down. Whenever you're trying to line up 3 bolts, or more than one effectively, you always kind of be sure everything lines up for you. Now these, I don't have a torque wrench that can only do 15 pounds of torque reliably. Remember, in a torque wrench, you want the applied torque range to be halfway through your target range. So I would need something that has a 30-pound torque limit on it, and I do not. The top one was 58 pounds, and my torque wrench is, in theory, 3 to 100, but I use it in the 50 range normally. All right, now we just got to pull this other bolt off. All right, now we have to pull that bolt out. This one's in a bit of a tricky spot here, so same thing here. We've got to put some thread lock on it, put it back, tighten her down. All right, that's tight. So this side is done. So in the interest of time, I thought I would show you the differences between doing the left side and the right side. If you don't know this, the actual engine guard is mounted differently on the left side than the right side. I've already taken the hanger bolt out, and I've taken this bolt out. Now the bolt that's here is actually slightly higher than it is on the other side. So you actually have to take this cowl off to get into the inside of this to put the bolt on. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is show you how to take this off. It's pretty straightforward, but we'll do that real quick. So there are 4 hex heads that hold on this lower cowl here, and we're gonna take them all off. There's 1 here, 2 on the front, and 1 on the inside. So we are going to start with this one. They are all 5mm. So there are 4 bolts, and there are 3 different sizes. The one on the rear is a flat. There is no flare or flange on this. It fits flush against this plastic. So there are 2 of these up front, 1 here and 1 here. So we're just gonna pop those out real quick. Editing all this out anyway. So now we got to take this piece off. It's held in by a prong here, and then it's just a little push pin, right? Or not even a push pin, it's just a little guide pin back here. So just push in right here till this lifts up, and then you want to push in right here till this one lifts up, and you can just lift it off. So you can see it's just, there's 1 here, 1 here, and then your little guide pin right here. So that's all that was holding that in. Then we want to take this piece off. It's held in by this one, also a 5mm. This one is very wide on the head. So we'll look at the 3 types that you have here. So the 3 types of heads you have is you have one with no flange on the back. That is for the rear. Then you have 2 of them that are flared. One is wide and one is narrow. The 2 narrow ones, there are 2 of these, go up front, and this wide one goes right there. So to take this piece off now, what we're going to do is release the back, just pull it away a little bit. Then there's a grommet right here. We're going to let that grommet, release that grommet, like that. Then there's a pull pin right down here. Snap pin, just like that. And then there's a hook, so we push it forward and we pull the hook off. Okay, so I went ahead, and this is the big difference right here, this piece. So instead of just a bolt and a spacer, you also have this crooked piece right here. And that's because this bolt hole is up higher on this side than it is on the right side. So the left side is up higher. Now, one thing I noticed about this is in their instructions, they say to put this in, then put everything back together, and then put the bolt here that holds the cage on. The problem is that you cannot get back to this to tighten it down once you put it all together. It's just too far up in here to get to with any kind of reasonableness. So I'll show you that as we get it back together. So what I want to do is put it together while it's taken apart. I want to line everything up so I can tighten this piece down. So the way this goes together is bolt, washer, spacer with the detent facing the bike. There's a hose it goes over. And we're just going to slide that on here and put it in the hole where it goes. Now we're going to grab the shorty bolt with the washer, and we're going to put it on here where it goes. Just like the other side, there's a bolt, washer, spacer. The spacer goes behind the cage. Put the bolt through there. And we're going to put this guy in place. This is a bit of a pain in the ass, but once you get this back together, you can't get in here. So you got to make sure that everything lines up correctly. So we're going to tighten this one down. We've got a little bit of play up top, not much. We're going to tighten this one down. And then we'll tighten this one down. Put it where it goes. Now, I've already thread locked this one and torqued, so I'm just torquing it down. So I was already prepared for that. Remember, I'm only showing you the differences on this side. So now we want to take this off and put the body back together, the body panels. Now that we know this bolt is where it goes, we can't get to this bolt once it's together. I couldn't. I tried and I could not get in there. So I'm going to go ahead and take this apart. And then I'm going to put together, I got to put the body panels back together now. So to get this body panel on, kind of the opposite, you want to start from the top, line your little grommet up right there, make sure your hook's in the front. And then snap that guy back in there. All right. We grab the one that's the fat one with the flare on it. We're going to put that in here. Bee flying around in here. And now we want the flat one, no flare. All right, we're going to go around the front. Now we're going to take this, and remember we've got this clip, and this prong. So this is pretty straightforward. Put this one on first, slide everything into place, it'll lock right down. Now we take our last two bolts, which are the same size. They have the thin top and the flare. We're going to put this one in down here. Alrighty. Now we're going to put the cage on. All right, we're going to start with this one right here. The spacer goes behind the cage. And then I've got thread lock on here already. I'm not going to tighten that all the way. I want to get this one in before I tighten it up. Remember, I'm trying to line up 3 bolts here. Put a little bit of thread lock on there. I want that one just a little loose so I have some slop to move it around up top. Now I'm going to bring it up top and we're going to put that top one in. So just like the 2 down below, we're going to put some thread lock on here. Almost out of thread lock. Stuff lasts forever though. I'm going to start it by hand, I think. This is really hard to get to. Don't drop this. Should never say don't drop this. That's how you always end up dropping it. Now we're going to grab the torque wrench, torque it down. All right, 58 foot-pounds. Of course, I want to come back now, forget to snug these up. I'm not going to torque these. I don't have a torque wrench that's right, but I'm going to tighten them up to where they seat. That's it. So now I can, let's take a look at this. Wrap up our thoughts. So there they are, the T-Rex cages. You can see the ground clearance in corners. Doesn't change a whole lot. Okay, not on the gimbal, but here we are. Those are the T-Rex crash cages. They look pretty good. They don't do much from a clearance standpoint compared to the other ones I've seen. Both sides, obviously. All right, so here we are, all done. The T-Rex guard is on. Right there, both sides. I really do like those. They're very nice looking crash bars. They're very heavy duty. The install was more complex than I anticipated. This left side is hard. I should have done it first instead of last. Just be aware, at least what I found was it's easier to put that bottom bracket on with the cowl off, bottom bracket on, then line everything up and fix the bracket in place, then take the cage off, put the cowl on, and then put everything in place. It was just way easier. Don't forget to torque up your engine hangers. 58 foot-pounds is what the service manual from Honda says. So make sure you're getting the right torque. You're not doing too little bit of torque and the engine falls off on you partway down the road. I'll be checking those again after the next ride. So just being sure. For 239 bucks, that's what these cost. $239. That's like half the price of the Panicles and some other knockoffs that I've seen on Amazon. So I think it's a way better bar for the money. I feel like it'll protect me if I drop the bike. God, I hope I never find out. So, yeah, good luck. Keep your wheels down. Hope you like them. More to come. Have a good one.